Looks like actually, for the 4 lands, Karn, Spell Pierce. I kind of see what you mean with the right and wrong half. That's something that could compete in a mid-range fight, maybe against a control deck, but against turn 1 Fanatical Firebrand, gotta be concerned.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a spot where you keep this Karn and you go, all right, let's do this, let's buckle in, and your opponent goes, all right, buckle up, and plays a Fanatical Firebrand.
Swinging again by Jeff. Land number 2 makes G2 Lava Runner. Now, interesting about the mono red deck is that the builds of it we're seeing this weekend aren't as standard. And I think it's because red has 3 excellent 4-drops at this point in the format.
Right, there are a bunch of good 3s, and there's even a point for risk factor. Since you want to cast it twice, you can cast it on 3 and on 4. Some people are going with a lower land count in order to increase their spell density and just playing risk factor instead.
Right, so yeah, we see low land risk factor builds. Then we see for the 4 we saw some Chandras in the spot. We sometimes see Rekindling Phoenix. Jeff is on neither of those. He has 1 Chandra and 3 Experimental Frenzy as his 4-drop slots.
And having a split between those is actually pretty great just because they're so bad in multiples, but in combination, they're great together.
Some early pressure in from the Firebrand. Abe does find a shock for the Lava Runner. Jeff has Runaway Steamkin. Yeah, it's been interesting, just because with Chandra being printed, Rekindling Phoenix has fallen out of favor in most of these lists that I've seen.
Yeah, and a lot of that just has to do with the fact that it doesn't line up very well against things that also would be used to target Planeswalkers, like Vraska's Contempt.
Right. And there's no shortage of Planeswalkers in the meta right now.
Exactly, and you know it also doesn't feel good? Getting your Rekindling Phoenix unsummoned by a Teferi Time Raveler.
So Karn from Abe pluses. We see 2 cards here on top. Yeah, we see Opt and Narset. Jeff's going to give him the Opt. Narset's going to hang out there. With a Planeswalker under the Karn, and Karn being so loyal, we see Lightning Strike. It's going to soak up a lot of damage.
Yeah, and this is a spot where Swaluk may be better off just trying to go face, but he's kind of
so
stuck.
Hard.
Exactly.
There's a Narset under it.
Yeah, Narset's going to be worth so many cards, and if Corrigan's still at 16, that's more than a little bit of life, so you can actually expect Corrigan to have time to make use of the spells that Narset gives him.
And we actually have seen, against this Jeskai deck, if you just continue to attack Planeswalkers as they play them, sometimes that works, and can take you very late into the game. If Runaway Steamkin can get up to a 4/4, Abe does not have that many ways to cleanly answer. He doesn't have main deck Lava Coil. He'd be looking at 2 cards to do it, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good point. There aren't very many card advantage engines that aren't just hoping your Planeswalkers stick around.
So, Planeswalker number 2 is Sarkhan. -3 brings a dragon with him. This one's a bit harder for mono red just to attack down. You have to answer a 4/4 and a Planeswalker that shoots your creatures as they attack it.
Yeah, here Swaluk would be looking for something that, say, even a Lightning Strike or Wizard's Lightning works, because he does have this Fanatical Firebrand to complement it.
Yeah, I think looks like that's what he's going to do. Here's Wizard's Lightning, counter on Steamkin, so 3 damage on the token. There's the 4th. An attack in clears board, and I like what Swaluk's doing, but he is down to just 1 card in hand to what it looks like 6 for Corrigan.
Oof. And this is exactly that card advantage that you see coming from all of these Planeswalkers, where they've all effectively been worth at least 2 cards apiece.
And here's where things get tough. How about another Sarkhan? And I don't know if Jeff has another 4 damage in his hand.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised.
He's gonna have to find something.
I mean, this is where those 3 copies of Experimental Frenzy, the fact he's picked that as his 4-drop, if he can draw one, this is the perfect spot.
Right. Experimental Frenzy is something that is way more powerful than any individual Planeswalker out of Corrigan's deck.
Especially with Runaway Steamkin in play, you can do crazy things.
You just go off if you have an Experimental Frenzy here.
But it does feel like without that kind of card, Jeff, simply put, is going to just run out of resources.
Right.
And 3 mana, he's trying to find out how to answer it. The 4 toughness on the dragon token is just not very accessible.
Yeah, that's something where maybe if he has something like a Goblin Chain Whirler, he could pair that with a Lightning Strike and get it down, but...
Runaway Steamkin up to a 4/4 thanks to G2 Lava Runner. We look at the graveyard. Looks like Lightning Strike and Wizard's Lightning, so yeah, it's going to be a 2/2. Does mean if they both get sent at Sarkhan will hit the graveyard, but at what cost? I mean, he'd have to throw away the 2/2. And it looks like Jeff's not willing to make that trade. He just says pass, and this is dangerous. Abe can end step opt.
Yeah, it feels awful, but there's a point where the red deck also just needs something that's going to deal damage. So if you throw away...
both.
Corrigan even trades Dragon for Steam Cannon, it's Gidu Lava Runner versus Corrigan's deck. What is Jeff really going to do?
I agree. I mean, I'm looking at Abe's hand. I think we see a Teferi Hero of Dominaria in it, for example. That card is just so powerful.
Yeah, there's a spot where you just look to slam this Teferi, minus it on, say, Runaway Steam Can, and all of a sudden Swaluk's running on empty.
Minus on Steam Can, I think you can even plus it. We see Saheeli.
Ooh, that goes well with Mox Amber, doesn't it?
This is nice. Yeah, how to get the servo immediately. So Mox Amber, there we go. Get a 1/1 servo to go with it.
Doing a Psy Master Thopterist impression here.
Shock down to 19. This feels like Teferi.
Oh, and it looks like Corrigan doesn't even have to choose between the two Planeswalkers.
With 2 servos in play now, I think I want to plus the Teferi.
That's tough. I think I likely might just want to tuck the Runaway Steam Can just because that's the avenue back in the game.
Not even a thought. It's like, oh yeah, this is what Teferi does.
We're going to 5 upstairs. Let's do this.
I guess if you minus it right then, and you're really exposing yourself. Like, the reason you wouldn't want to have these servos defend is that Chain Whirler can answer them all. But if you minus your Teferi, Chain Whirler answers them all again, because then it kills the Teferi.
Right.
So, like, Chain Whirler's great no matter what. Might as well pick the greediest play.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. The only thing that I'm really worried about here is it feels like an experimental frenzy off the top into chaining a bunch of things is the only way that Swaluk's ever getting back into this game.
Yeah, well, that means at least he has a Teferi with 4 loyalty left now.
That's true.
Chain Whirler was there, so 1 damage to all the Planeswalkers.
Well, we have to get this Sarkhan off the battlefield right now, or we are dead.
Oh, actually dead, right. We just
literally at 0 life.
Literally. They can all dragon up all the Planeswalkers, and then they attack.
Yeah, unfortunately...
So some sort of attack happens.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just trading the Mobilized District for Runaway Steam Can and then put the Dragon in front of Gidu Lava Runner, and then it's not possible.
Okay, Viashino, Pyromancer.
That does it.
That takes care of Sarkhan, too. And Steamkin is going to attack something. Lava Runner offered up as a trade. Looks like they both went to Teferi, so the 4/4 trade, Teferi down to 2.
I may have been interested in animating the Mobilized District before that Viashino Pyromancer trigger resolved.
Yeah, that one's interesting.
Because then we just get to trade and eat the Lava Runner and still have a dragon left over at the end.
See, Teferi up to 3 for Abe. Yeah, I think so. With Jeff tapping out, that seems like that was an opportunity. He was holding up Spell Pierce before,
right.
so that made sense, but the Viashino was the last mana in play for Jeff, so you could take down the counter spell. Either way, the 3rd Sarkhan of the game is the play for Abe, and that might just be enough to end this.
Yeah, and something you brought up earlier is this deck's very rarely about the micro interactions like that, and is very much about the macro decisions that you make in your sequencing, and we're kind of just seeing that here.
Yeah. Which Planeswalker to play when is a really important decision that costs you games and is very a swingy decision. You know, individual things like whether or not to animate or leave up a counter here oftentimes aren't.
Correct.
Mono Red is a deck I think that's played actually a little more on the micro level.
Yeah, absolutely. You have so many small cards that you need to make sure line up perfectly to deal exactly 20, but when your cards are super powerful, they can be pretty forgiving as long as you don't royally throw the game in the garbage.
Yeah, Mono Red, sometimes you have a hand that deals 17 damage and you need to figure out a way to get to 20. Sometimes you have a hand that deals 25 damage and you need to figure out how to play more safely, like how much extra safety you have to play with, and you kind of are always changing your plays based on that.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of micro thing. Do I play around something this turn? Do I intentionally not play around something this turn? Those decisions really matter.
Yeah, and we see that kind of payoff for Corrigan there, where he just takes game number 1 pretty convincingly.
Yeah, and this is just the impressive part, because I had some concern about this matchup, especially game 1, and Abe won that one comfortably, and this matchup gets a ton better after sideboard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The only thing that really benefits Swaluk post-board is Tibble Rakish Instigator. It's
Can't
quite
gain
good.
life.
Legion Warboss, quite good as well, because it's just so punishing, and it's kind of an army in a can that eats an entire Deafening Clarion by itself.
Yeah, I can see some argument from, Chandra, that Chandra, maybe some heavier stuff, if that's where he wants to go with the deck. But it's not immediately clear to me how he answers these Planeswalkers outside of his Game 1 plan. What is clear is what Abe's going to do, looking at his sideboard. He's got a whole slew of cards that just look great.
Lyra, Dawnbringer, Deafening Clarion, Lava Coil, probably even Prison Realm if there are just a bunch of cards that he's just trying to get out of his deck.
Yeah, if you have all these, some of your Planeswalkers don't do as much in this matchup.
Right, like Narset is kind of embarrassing a lot of the time. Draw
Narset's a
2's
draw
nice,
spell.
but that's just going to draw 1 and then probably get attacked down a good chunk of the time, which
Yeah.
maybe a 3-mana healing salve is worth it. But
I think Karn goes before Narset, but they might both go.
I agree. I think there are a lot of cards that Corrigan is pretty interested in not having in his library anymore, and suitable replacements in the sideboard.
Yeah, he's got a easy 7 to 9 card swap here to take the medium cards and turn them all into good cards.
I actually think that Corrigan may end up leaving in Spell Pierce because Experimental Frenzy is very strong. Tybalt is another one that he needs to be able to deal with pretty reliably.
I'm interested, yeah. Spell Pierces do play, because he has these 3 Prison Realm, I feel like there's an opportunity for him just to play a more proactive game and not have conditional cards, but maybe he wants all 6.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that those effects are pretty taxed in the matchup, and also his mana is kind of clunky in a lot of spots.
That's true.
A lot of spots that are very thick on the curve, which is to say he has a million 3s and then not a ton of 4s, so it's actually a pretty great play to say go Prison Realm your thing on 3 and also, or on 4 rather, and then also tag your Experimental Frenzy.
Well, that's what I love about the deck design that Lotus Box has come up with this weekend. You look at a control deck and you think, why on earth would your go-late control deck be playing 3 Spell Pierce main and 0 Dovin's Veto main, right? Like, when you want a non-creature counterspell in a control deck, you're generally looking, like, Dovin's Veto is a very excellent card.
Strong.
Yeah, and Spell Pierce is something I play in my tempo decks. When I play Esper Control, I don't play Spell Pierce.
Right,
but because of how this, it's really heads up and a nod to that this is a Planeswalker archetype and not a control archetype, that they're doing things like main decking Spell Pierces.
Exactly. This is a thing where you are being incredibly conscientious of the way that you are planning to play your games out and how your curve's going to look, and then adapting your other cards around the kind of core of your curve.
Yeah. No absorbs in the 75.
That's
wouldn't really be able to cast
Cancels
one.
are really rough right now. Teferi is doing a lot of work to punish that card. If you're ever on the draw, Absorb might just never have a text box.
I think you're right. I think Teferi's why Absorb is pushed out of the metagame. And even on top of that, just in this style archetype, Absorb is a card that's just hard to play. 3 mana is your turn.
Exactly.
The traditional control decks like to play Absorb because when you don't absorb something, you get to Chemister's Insight. But as we mentioned before, earlier in the broadcast, Super Friends doesn't play card draw.
Right.
Both players on 7 here for the second game. Fanatical Firebrand starting things off.
Seen a couple of Deafening Clarions and a Lava Coil hiding out in Corrigan's hand. It feels like this is one of those right half of the deck situations where if Swaluk leans really hard into creatures, then Abe's going to win this pretty easily, but if not, Corrigan could end up struggling.
Turn 2 light up the stage from a spectacle for Jeff. It does not draw him the 2 cards he wanted. It exiles 2, but one of them is Experimental Frenzy. You see him slide that one away. There's no way to get to 4 mana in time.
Yeah, that one doesn't feel particularly great.
Got a mountain, so not all was lost, but I think he was hoping for more.
Right. Ooh, he has a Legion Warboss in his hand and he didn't play it. I love this.
Okay, just really respecting Clarion.
Yep.
Plays Tybalt Rakish Instigator. Not a terrible card. Makes a 1/1 Devil.
Tybalt on camera has been called. Welcome to 2019, everybody.
Shock from Abe at Tybalt. That one's interesting. He has Prison Realm in his hand, but still decides to shock the Tybalt here.
Yeah, it may just be that he's not leaning on the life gain that hard just yet, and he just wants to make sure the battlefield is clear in order to pave the way for some Planeswalkers to take over. And
correctly called that Legion Warboss as Deafening Clarion clears up the board. I mean, at a certain point, you can just leave a Tybalt with 1 counter on the board, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what does it do? He can't gain life. Okay. I mean, he has cards in his lands gain life sometimes, but here's Legion Warboss from Jeff.
Big fan. This
Yeah.
is exactly what we were talking about during sideboarding when we said it's a great army in a can that comes in right after a Deafening Clarion and goes, do you have another one? Because you need to.
Yeah, Jeff did a really good job on his third turn this game. And now light up the stage. This has all been excellent. It shows, okay, well, this is what's going to happen next
The old
turn.
1 mana 6 you.
Yeah, 1 mana,
Or
2
one
lightning
card
strikes.
6 you, excuse me.
Yeah, I like a 6 damage burn spell. That's a good
Here,
card.
let me do some math. I'm getting all my fingers out for this one.
That's 2, I hope.
3. Oh my god, that's 6 damage, Matthias.
Deafening Clarion again. Second one from Abe cleans it up. Well done. He's at 15. So it's interesting, right? Because this is a board where Jeff would like to make an establishing play. You know, some sort of threat, experimental frenzy. But because these cards are limited time only, I think he just cashes in the 6 burn points.
Yeah, it could be interesting if he had something like a Legion War Boss that pays
Yeah.
you if it's on the battlefield for longer. But if his hand's just burn spells or something like experimental frenzies, you're behooved to just go ahead and deal half of Abe's life total.
Abe passes back on a 5-card hand. Chainwheelers a play from Jeff. Abe down to 8. What do you make of that? If you're in Jeff's seat, what are these? If your opponent's holding on to 5 cards, what does he have?
5s.
Okay, 5 mana cards.
5s.
So you're assuming like Lyra's coming if he gets a land.
Yeah, really, I don't know if hoping is the right word, but Teferi, Sarkhan, cards in that vein are kind of what I'm expecting there. Maybe sorcery answers to creatures.
My biggest read on him having 5 mana spells would be that shock. There's a Tybalt that's waiting around that's not doing anything, but he end step shocked it. And what that says to me is that my opponent's saying, as soon as I draw my 5th land, I'm tapping out every turn. I don't know when I'm going to get to cast this again. Might as well do it.
I agree. Tybalt numero dos.
Second Tybalt has been called.
He's an instigator.
Yeah, I like. It's very Victorian. I like the. He's a rake.
Ish.
Yes. That's
Ish.
Indeed, rakes are quite rakish fellows. Another prison realm. Tybalt sent off to the prison realm.
Swaluk admiring. Yeah, that is a pretty good card, huh?
Not bad. Fanatical Firebrand, 2 more damage. Abe to 6. He has scryed twice off these prison realms, and I don't know that he's found land 5 yet.
Well, if he does, these Sarkhans turn off the battlefield.
Yeah, nothing can attack.
Yeah.
I guess you could still move the
there
Sarkhan,
were
right?
2.
The devil suicides into it and deals 1, and then this Fanatical Firebrand. Both creatures can sacrifice themselves to remove a Sarkhan.
So many lava coils. Uh-oh. That's a life gain land.
Okay. Hey, well, both Tybalts are gone now. We can gain life again.
Yeah.
Lava Coil on the Devil token. That's exiles, so no damage to be thrown around. See whether Abe... I'm wondering to see whether he would... He doesn't have a second red. I was going to say whether he Lava Coils the second Firebrand, but he can't.
I'd imagine so. 6 is not high, and neither is 5.
He's 5. Yeah, I mean, and especially... Yeah, how about now down to 3?
Ooh.
Yeah. Danger.
This is spooky.
Danger. There's so many cards that win right now. Here is Sarkhan.
All right, up to 5.
All right. Yeah, we'll confirm that he gained him. Yeah, up to 5. And that covers both attackers.
Yeah. We have a game. That is a mountain in Swaluk's hand if I ever saw one.
Just hoping to draw. Does he have risk factor? He does not. No, he has 3 out of the sideboard.
He has him out of the sideboard, but I'm pretty... I
think
believe
they'd come
you
in,
sorcery speed it because you have the Fanatical Firebrand in play.
Yeah, so you just make sure it happens.
Yeah, well, exactly.
You always want to take away your opponent's options when you have the chance.
Ooh.
And also, you know...
Narcis's pretty good against risk factor.
Yeah, now risk factor is not a very good draw.
God, gain 2 life off of this card draw spell?
These lands... This deck's really good. Narset finding another Narset. And what I like about Sarkhan as a Planeswalker is also look at the closing speed we're going to deal with here. Right? It's 7 to 20, and it's like 2 turns from lethal attacks?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe 1? Yeah, swing. Okay, he's going to try to do it in 1. He swings for 8, says go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Neither of the creatures can attack.
Yeah, it's actually game over next turn. This is crazy.
Mobilized District can even block?
Well, Jeff going to attempt. He Wizard's Lightnings. A will activate.
He will mobilize the district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Narset minus
All right.
2.
We've completed the full dig through time.
The parter of veils. We have parted this veil.
But
Has a third Narset? It's too much Narset. Finds Saheeli.
it's likely between Saheeli and something like Opt, maybe? Trying to figure out if he just wants to cast Sarkhan and slam that.
He's got so many good options here.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely in the embarrassment of riches stage.
This deck goes between life support and winning by a mile so quickly.
Yeah, and that's the strong thing about it, if we're being honest.
I mean, 1 Planeswalker is a strong board, is a good board. 2 Planeswalkers is almost always a win, and 3 is comical.
Yep. That's just the line where you go, all right, well, good luck, everybody.
Here is Saheeli. Cast that one first so you can get servos off these remaining spells. And Abe looks like he's going to clean this up to a 9-0. Number 2 on our leaderboard here. What a show. This tournament could certainly put him into first.
Oh, yeah, he's only, 4 points behind Dilks?
Yeah, I mean, so when we talk about that, the 3 at-large leaders after SCGCon qualify for the Players' Championship. And being in first or second going in is so much different. Because a lot of times there's a lot of points on the line at the Invitational at SCGCon.
Right.
The winner gets an automatic berth. That's
Correct.
fine. But the second place person, usually what happens is there's so many points on the line that someone in the top 8 just shoots up to the top of the standings. So if you're on the bubble, if you're in but you're third going into the Invitational,
You can't flounder.
well, it's just like someone's going to jump into the top 3 and pass you, and you're the one who falls out. So, entering at second or first is so much more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a spot where, we saw Evan Whitehouse quietly jump up to the top of the leaderboard last season just